interesting.
We're ready again?
I'm ready.
All right, welcome back. This is like the third welcome back. As I was saying, on Thursday mornings, if you have a direct channel to some supernatural power, please open it up for us because every type of disturbance occurs to prevent us from coming out. And this morning is a very special morning. Welcome again, Miss Maxine. Thank
Blessed,
you for
blessed
gracing
love
us with
to
your presence.
the morning connection and the audience.
Right, welcome. And as I was saying before you came today, I was just wondering how would you present yourself today? And of course, you are dressed regally. You know that. You are dressed regally in terms of, well, we were, a minute was saying mint green, but you corrected and says it is lime green.
Or ganja green.
Yes, let's go with
Ganja
cannabis
green.
green.
That's what it is.
The canna green.
Well, that's what I think it should be.
Hallelujah. Continue. So good to see. And I was saying we were going to be talking about the green economy this morning, and we're going to be joined by a very how do you describe Dickie Crawford?
Experienced, well respected,
Social
vocal,
social commentator.
thought provoking. Dickie is a rebel, I would say. And now he's a very mature rebel. I mean, when I met him on campus, me not knowing anything about rebels, I was certainly caught by there's a kind of a speed to how he thinks and communicates matters of political significance that it inspires you, because I know that I felt like, we gotta look more deeply into these things and not just accept what we see or think that we
Surface.
can't have impact. So I'm really looking forward to him joining us. But as you know, Maxine's ability to kind of sort through the issues that touch and concern the connection between matters of economics, matters of policy, matters of philosophy, because when you talk about cannabis, you cannot help but hold in the center of your mind that the Rastafarian community has carried a torch or a spliff or whatever, a burning zeal for people to understand the plant and to relate to the plant in a particular way. So cannabis is like a person in the room this morning, and there's some issues of honor and respect, and I think the Rastafarian story is deeply tied up with the story of how man has treated this plant, and in particular in Jamaica, how it has been used. Today it is friend and savior, because Edward Seaga most famously said that Jamaica was being kept afloat by ganja dollars. Tomorrow it is the enemy, and we are saying that it is causing our children to have psychological issues, and we associate it with vagrancy and a certain type of antisocial conduct. And
what
now
you're
we're
saying, there's the
hearing
good
that
and the
it
bad
is,
side.
as always, last week, Professor was saying technology is dichotomous. The plant is what it is. Man's treatment of it is where the problem begins and ends. So, welcome again, Maxine. I want to know, if you could start at this place for me, how much of the story of Rasta is the story of cannabis?
I think the whole story of Rasta is, the history of it is tied into the history of cannabis. Because whatever century the plant is, occupies, it is always associated with social and economic inequality. Meaning, once the plant is amongst the poorer people or the not elite,
Yes.
it is a struggle, and it has been a struggle through time. So you find over the years, it's a psychotropic plant. Nature has X amount of what they consider psychotropic plants that assist the human personality to think outside of his material.
Spirituality, for the spirit to rise. really.
Exactly.
Yeah.
Right. So, people also want to control people's spirituality as a means of controlling the person, and especially the person's labor, because that's eventually
That's where you're going.
where
Yeah.
where everything
It's a form of enslavement, one way or another.
one way or another.
Yeah.
So it's interesting when you look at the history of the plant that in each age or in each century, it's linked to a particular inequity in the society, and so
In each century, you mean? So we know about Jamaica. You want to go back further,
Yeah,
in
like-
other places?
yeah, in the Muslim world, in the
Mhm.
1200s, in the 1400s, the Pope and different religious that is always in a kind of elite with the common people.
Mhm.
So once the common people, it becomes entrenched with them,
Mhm.
then there is a clamping down. There is a, get it off the
Books. So you're saying that everybody would have recognized what the impact it has. So if I want to control it, even though I'm using it, I control your use so I can use it to my own benefit. That's what you're saying.
But there are a couple of things though that we need to like identify the strands and
Okay.
follow them.
Mhm.
Because Maxine has put everything on the table right now.
Yeah. So I
We
was
talked
just-
about the simple life earlier, which is usually the life of poor people. Let's be frank about that. Simplicity in how you live, the humble circumstances of your housing, your diet, a more agrarian lifestyle, because the more wealth man accumulates, the more distance he puts between himself and the ground, just as a straight line. So as societies evolve and people accumulate wealth, they move farther away from land-based
Like
living.
rabbits, yeah. Mhm.
The people who live on the land are the ones who develop the closest relationship with these psychotropic plants, whether it is the poppy plant, the coca plant, marijuana, mushrooms. These are gifts of nature, and even to discover the extent of their capabilities, it requires a certain time and investment in exploring it and being close to it, which most time people living in the city, people who have accumulated wealth and status, don't spend time lying around under a tree chewing either mushroom or weed. I mean, maybe
I understand that.
their children do, but usually you, in the thrust of life, driven by the pride of life, you're not doing it. When you discover the relationship that the simple man has with the plant, and especially when you discover that it offers him a way of escape, because he escapes your control.
right.
He is not
That's the
mindful
escape.
of that is the escape.
Oh, so-
Once you discover that it takes him out of your control, you come back and want to dominate it. Then it becomes a weapon in the hands of those who have power and the ability to strip you away from the land. Remember, that in most of the original societies, as they began to evolve, ownership of land became the key. And a lot of people were living as feudal tenants. They were not living on their own land, even though they were enjoying the benefits of nature, like, Jamaica owned by the Queen. That means to say, if she want to take up everybody and ship them somewhere else, so she could control what is in the land, she could do so. And so it was in older societies.
All right.
So this relationship, and that's what I was probing, the relationship between the man who is closest to the plant and the plant itself becomes the source of study. And when you see the power of the plant in how that man is relating to it, you covet.
Right. So just to quote,
Yes.
in 1253, the year 1253, Sufis were openly growing marijuana in Cairo, Egypt. The government, claiming that Sufism was a threat to society, raided their farms and destroyed all their crops.
That sounds like the Coptic
Undeterred,
experience.
the Sufis made deals with farmers in the Nile River Valley to grow marijuana on their farmlands. This successful agricultural partnership lasted until 1324, when Egyptian troops raided the countryside and destroyed all the marijuana they could find. For Sufis and marijuana farmers, the situation only got worse. Martial law was imposed in 1378, and this time the authorities destroyed more than marijuana crops. Entire farms and farming villages were burned to the ground. farmers were imprisoned or executed, and hashish users had their teeth pulled. Despite this swift and vicious crackdown, the demand for hashish remained strong. The cycle of cultivation, consumption, and crackdown continued in Egypt for centuries, right? Islam was not the only major world religion to feel threatened by marijuana. Pope Innocent VIII issued a papal ban on cannabis in the first year of his papacy in 1484. At the time, marijuana, along with other mind-altering plants, was being cultivated for medicinal and spiritual applications throughout Europe by quote-unquote pagans who were considered to be witches and sorcerers. The Christianity of Pope Innocent VIII, however, was predicated on a future fulfillment in the afterlife and a rejection of momentary pleasures or enlightenment. The pagans growing marijuana profoundly challenged this premise by promising spiritual enrichment in the present with a plant grown right here on earth. Pope Innocent VIII thus wasted no time in addressing this existential threat, declaring cannabis to be an unholy sacrament of the satanic mass. The pagans who cultivated it were persecuted into imprisonment, exile, or death. And this
that could easily be a commentary on today.
But
right?
what I'm saying, that story in terms of the use of cannabis or psychotropic drugs is the story of mankind across different things, not only cannabis,
alcohol.
That's still
Could switch gears on you and say guns.
No, not even guns. No, we're not going there. We're just talking about psychotropic drugs. So what the thing is, what you are saying is that, this is my hearing what you're saying is that the use of psychotropic drugs, not only plants, because the plant has been used across different civilizations. Because if you go in India, if you go in thing, they've been using that for a very long time. Mm-hmm. And what your position is, it has been used as a method of control of persons.
No, of seeking control, because if you might be living, you're a human being, freedom to be born and live, and human rights. Mm-hmm. But people are always looking to control your labor, to create wealth or to create armies or to create power. Mm-hmm. Right? So anything that defies, that gives you your humanness, its freedom. Mm-hmm. It will, the person who wants you will want to get rid of that.
All right. Okay.
You understand? So if it's even your religious thought, then it's not theirs. They want to impose their God on you.
Okay.
You understand what I'm saying?
Because it opens up a different discussion.
Yeah,
but you continue, because we can, the other ladies here. Okay.
Yeah, it is a wide and varied
discussion.
Yeah,
but in the Jamaican context, for Rastafari represents the challenge to remove the legacy of slavery, and empowerment of the African in Jamaica.
Renew the bonds
with
Africa.
So the ganja linked to the Rastafari, that's why I said it is it coexists.
It is the story of one is the story of the other. And I love the connection that you made with the Sufis and the oppression.
Who were the Sufis?
In Egypt.
Who were they?
It's a religious
group. The grouping. It was a grouping.
Right.
Okay.
Yeah.
Okay.
Challenging whatever.
But it's that elite place where social control and behavioral control intersect. Mm-hmm. Because if you think these people are emboldened by the plant they are consuming, which makes them lose a certain amount of fear or reverence, because when you're I've never been high, but I do see that persons lose connection with the social norms that would keep you grounded. Let's put it that way. You might lose your fear of someone's authority, and you'll speak up against certain things that normally you'd be, cowed and silent. But if you have this ability to remove those bonds of fear, then the man who is accustomed to controlling you by just speaking a command or by just maintaining a presence, he's not going to be happy with that. So he's
No.
going to separate you from it.
That's true.
Exactly.
And that's
the
the
duality
first thing.
of ganja with hemp
Yes.
is, because like here now, colonial empires with their unfailing concern for a robust military and hard-working labor force have often viewed marijuana with suspicion. Though the Spanish were one of the first colonial empires to encourage the cultivation of hemp in the Americas, they were not as enthusiastic about marijuana. Right?
So hemp and
It make
cannabis
the
are
workers
same
sleep.
It's the
family.
Too
same
much.
family,
Yeah,
but
but-
they want. That is why even it's critical about the hemp ganja concern of Jamaica. Should we be growing hemp? Should we be growing ganja? Hemp is almost like you're bringing back the sugarcane labor
And with the
intensive,
Dynamic.
cannabis, that will
Yeah.
not
and
happen.
and with the ganja, they're both forms of cannabis, but the duality with them is about one where you want to bring in the hemp because then you are going to remove the ganja threat of that
Psychotropic.
It's the control part of
the
it.
control
social
part
control
of
part
the
it.
individual.
Yeah.
So that is the
But-
essence of part of the essence of the struggle.
But part of the struggle that I'm having, even with that, you said you've never had a high. Me neither, sister.
Oh.
Okay. But it has not. I don't need to be on a high to remove shackles and to speak my mind.
You just have to be filled with the Holy Ghost.
That filled with the Holy
No,
Ghost,
no,
but
That's
in
a high.
terms of you think consider it as a high, but I'm just suggesting because if what you're putting on the table, Maxine, is that in order to be able to break shackles and enforcement and control, you need something external to you to do that in terms of the drug. I am just wondering about that. I'm just putting that
No,
on the
it's
table.
not. It's not.
And in all
it's
fairness,
nature.
she didn't
No,
put
no,
it
no,
on
no,
the
no,
table.
no, no.
I was the one using that language
but
and that
it is
phraseology.
a necessary understanding that the plant was created by the creator and it lives within an ecosystem, right? So psychotropic plants
Mhm.
as a means to overcome your material environment and live your spiritual existence in the duality of it. It is an aid. You understand? And it came through the centuries
Mhm.
to aid you to overcome the material and to see past the material into the spiritual and be your essential human self, because
And
you're both.
I don't think in saying that we're saying it's the only way, because in the kingdom
It's-
we talk about the life of Christ
Mhm.
inhabiting your absolutely, you know what I'm saying, and that is one way to tap into supernatural and to have a greater spiritual experience. So there are many ways to get there,
Yeah,
and
but everything
those
is-
plants are a part of it.
Yeah, but your mind, like you're a psychiatrist or a psychologist, and you know the intricacies of the mind in terms of consciousness, memory. It is so intricate.
Mhm.
You are not.
This is how we were created.
It's how you are created, and you're literally a machine like your car. You understand what I'm saying? So as why it's called psychotropic, why it's even given that description,
Mhm.
it is saying that your mind needs kept these nutrients. You understand?
Yeah.
To
And both your mind being created by the same creator who create the plant, there's a relationship
There's a
that is
relationship.
mystical, and what we are trying to do is reduce it into words that might not give you the full picture or overstanding of it.
it's actually the ultimate freedom to think.
Yeah.
You understand? So what the ganja does is you are taught all these things in school or by your family, etc. And you smoke, and then the other learning, you have what you call all information that you have in your head don't come from just
What-
who you see and
Or what
there's-
your teachers tell you.
yeah, there's genetic information.
Mhm.
You understand what I'm saying? That you
And
that
this-
your training actually suppresses.
The 95% of the brain that you don't use or access gets stimulated and begins to deliver. Pastor used to tell me about downloads. You wake up. You have said it. I don't know. I've heard you say it right.
I get
You wake up in the
revelations.
morning, and we have the poet in the house, so she's looking with curiosity because she gets
She has a
downloads.
point. she has a
Inspiration, and
she call it
I
pointing.
think that's the one word that sums up what you're saying. Under the influence of the plant, it unlocks you, and you feel inspired in ways that before you went in, you didn't even know
Not only
that
that, your
information was
subconscious
there.
that holds so many memories that you don't necessarily. There's so much information.
Yes.
So different from ganja, there's a whole list of psychotropic plants that different countries, like the cocaine that they have now a problem with. The coca leaf in its natural environment with the
'Cause
person
it's-
using, they
people
just
chew it,
chew
they
it
chew
at
it.
midday.
Yes.
They know which time of day that they chew.
When
You
the sun
understand
is
what I'm
at
saying? Right, to relax and go to another, to rest and,
Yes. Yeah.
All right.
etc., etc.
What?
All right, I think it's time for us to take our
a
break.
break.
We got the signal for the 8 o'clock break. Let's do that. Please stay with us. This
You know
is
what
the
we should
Morning
have done?
Connection.
should have defined.
All right, welcome back to the Morning Connection. We are blessed with all of our guests online, in the house, and I thank you all for participating in the program this morning. We are getting Mr. Crawford on the phone line because that seems to be the best way this morning. I was looking forward to seeing him. I think we just have to do it on another occasion. Maxine is with us, and she and Pastor were spending some time just reviewing the history of man's relationship with the plant, and in particular the ways in which society or state power has been used to interfere with that relationship for purposes of social control. Maxine made the very important point that the desire to control labor meant separating man from anything which made him free from the strictures that society would normally impose. And in this place of spiritual freedom, it is difficult to reach him and haul him back to the plowshares or whatever type of activity was then the engine of production from societies as far back as in the 12th century. Here we are, it's 2022. Rasta is having a certain experience. Marijuana is the sacrament. How that was chosen, yes, how that was chosen is something we can discuss on another occasion. Why marijuana? Why not peyote? Why not the coca plant? Why not mushrooms? Marijuana has a certain place of prominence. On the line now we have Mr. Crawford. Good morning, Mr. Crawford.
Hi, good morning to you.
Good morning. We're looking so forward to seeing you in person.
Eh?
I was looking so forward to seeing you in person this morning. This is Percival Palmer, co-host with Minette Lawrence. Welcome, sir.
Thank you very much. I can you imagine I'm missing a venue like
Hush, my brother. Hush, it happens
by
to the best
accident,
of
eh?
us.
Nice place you're at, man.
Okay.
Yeah, I hear your voice and it takes me back to some time ago when I was a member of one of your tutorials at University of the West Indies. So I was looking forward to sitting at the feet of Gamaliel again.
Well, I tell you, that will happen, you know. That will happen.
Okay.
That
All
will
right.
happen.
Well, until
It's
then.
very nice to have had you in my class. That's why you're so good, you know. Honestly.
So this morning we are continuing our focus on Rastafarian Month, and our in-house guest presenter has been Miss Maxine Stowe, who looks very regal this morning. You should see her in all of her green.
All our red, green, and gold, or white, or
Or
white.
ganja green.
And in all of our ganja green.
Mine is not another green, you know.
Well, if it is, you would have to give her credit for being insightful and strategic because, hey, all green seem to work these days.
Yeah,
Um,
well, yeah. You're going to take her to New York and parade around the fashion, show.
I think she's been there already, but
Oh, yeah. Well,
yes,
nothing wrong going again.
revisiting her childhood haunts. But for this morning, we've been talking about the ways in which the plant has been, or use of the plant has been manipulated to achieve social control of labor. That's kind of how we've been looking at it, the
I
psychotropic
see.
plants. I know that you can draw a connection for us between the politics and the economics of the plant. Let's put it that way. So I just leave that as a platform for you to start because we've gone the road of decriminalizing the use of the plant, but there are some huge gaps which today has us very concerned about just economic inclusion.
Yeah, very interesting. You tabulated it quite fittingly, right? Right? The economic, the social, the political, the cultural. All of those things are tied into the plant and tied in a very significant way, of course, in perhaps the leading, one of the world's leading cultural centers, Jamaica, aided and abetted by the fact that we're the host and the birthplace of Rastafari.
Yes.
So consequently, it keeps boggling my mind that of all the countries in the world, Jamaica must realize that it is one of the most recognized and copied countries and at the top of the list of performance. It really is an amazing thing. And I just wanted to put that because it might paint the background to this economic, political, and social situation. Anywhere you go in the world, eventually it ends up that you call the name of Rastafari, Bob Marley, Usain Bolt recently. Well, you're from Jamaica, definitely. And when you realize that this country, by all mathematical tabulations, we are the world's greatest athletic superpower. And what makes me feel so good this morning is having watched a lot of the, a fair amount of the Kingston College where I went.
I was waiting for that to come in.
You were waiting for that, right?
Yes, all
Yeah.
right, Rich. Go ahead.
The KC win of at track, it really was first class. First class.
Yes, sir. Yes, sir.
And what you see is that the beauty of doing something right, because if I was to give any award at all or merit to anybody, boy, the J3 is the people in athletics deserve every commendation in the world, because we are number one in the world in athletic power. We're number one in the world in any track and field put on by high schools, as evidenced just now. And therefore, that is so significant. But the critical thing is that when the present team goes out, we have the KC, JC, the schoolers coming up. They are already world performers at the age of between 12 and 15 and 16. It is really commendable. If we ever did two other things in Jamaica, like how we do track and field, well, then we wouldn't be in the position that we're in today.
Okay.
So that is so critical. The plant, as you say,
Yes.
how
right.
did it all start? Let's put it this way. Certainly, Marcus Garvey had an impact on Leonard Powell. Leonard Howell,
Howell.
Oh, well, right.
right?
Yes.
They tended to have met in New York, etc., etc. Everybody met there. And as you know also, Marcus Mosiah Garvey, at the high point of his movement, he had members exceeding 12 million people,
Worldwide.
including Australia, you know, including Australia. So um, the Garveyism was adopted by Howell,
Mm-hmm.
but he also was a very serious man who said we should stop celebrating King George V and celebrate instead His Imperial Majesty Ethiopia. So that was where he put now a cap on top of the clothing already influenced by Marcus. So in those days, then he posed a threat, and there was a. I'm sorry, I don't have it in my hand now, but there was a letter, there was a document that the colonial secretary had passed to the Queen and to the government of Great Britain, which of course is still our government, that we have to get rid of these Rastafarians because they commit the greatest atrocities in the world. And they are even proposing to put someone apart from Jesus Christ of the Christian faith that we must worship and pay homage to. These may sound colorful, these things may sound colorful today, but can you imagine what these people went through at that time by the embryonic Rastafari movement up at the top of Sligoville.
Okay.
And you know, at one stage, Sligoville was the capital of Jamaica, and I think maybe Lennon Hall was next door to the governor and those people, and that's why they had to run him out of the place. So they sent the police to tear down the property and to get him out, and they put him in prison. So the question you asked me, it starts there. Leonard Howell and Rastafari actually did start an organized
Replacement.
farm to
Okay.
feed people, to grow, to provide jobs, and to feed people. Today we're still groveling around the place to get our agricultural production somewhere. Can you imagine if we didn't have that setback and we didn't have this hostility? Because after they locked up Leonard P, it was open sesame, open warfare against Rastafari, which
Rastafari.
we all know
Mhm.
about. There have
So,
been
Mr. Crawford, you have just created a kind of a stew pot of religion, social control, and politics coming together in the voice of Leonard Howell, who, perhaps under the influence of some marijuana, had the revelation that this system of social, the structures under which we were living, required dramatic change. And as you put him next door to Sligoville, I can see how whatever it is that led him, I can see the thinkers and the leaders saying, whatever it is that gave this man, that awakened this man's consciousness to bring him to this place of boldness,
yes,
we got to put a stop to it. And of course, when you imprison a man, you move him from his sacrament, you remove him from his family and society, and you have him within a place where you can control him. So that sort of brings together those elements which, in my understanding of things, seem to be at the heart of the Rastafarian movement. And what you see shaping is an alternative government. Because if you can use land and feed people, you're giving them an answer to some of the,
Major concern they have.
yes, some of the concerns that they have.
survival.
So
naturally, yes.
yeah, so all right, can we move to, let's say, move to 2015 16, because there now was the culmination of some activism to release the plant from the bonds of oppression that came with the criminalizing of the use of it and so on. I know that the Rastafarians played a very major role there. I asked Maxine, and now I ask you, what degree of credit would you give to the Rasta for the changes in the law that took place?
Well, I have to give much credit. It's not a matter of because they were ever present. They were ever present in the struggle for social and economic empowerment, and even to just to live a better life. I mean, who can forget the bulldozing of Trenchtown in order to get people out to build a citadel down there. In addition to which, the other issue is that um, the most vocal, after the Maroons, the most vocal counter to the colonial rule would have been, and to a large extent still is. You even see it in the visit of the
The
royal people to
Queens.
Jamaica the other day, where so 2015 then they laid the base. In addition to that, there were one or two enterprising and interesting persons, like scientists in particular, who took up another role,
Mm-hmm.
and that was to create the first medicine out of ganja.
Yeah. Canasaw.
First, that's Lockhart, yes,
Hmm.
and Manly West,
Right.
right? And they produced Canasol and Asmasol. They, though they weren't Rastas, the wisdom that they gathered,
From fishing with
they
them.
counseled with the Rastafarians up at UWI
Mm-hmm.
and the scientists. And then when they finished producing this medicine, the drug abuse of Council of America refused when they sent it up for lobbying and
Accreditation. Yeah.
accreditation and to use it as a medicine. Um, they refused point blank to do so. So that was another way of crushing this young country who wanted to try and use a plan to develop and earn a lot of money out of it. And then what drew me to them was that I was doing a project once and I had to do an interview with Manly West and Lockhart. And we spoke and they said to me, well, Dickie, here's the story. We could have, because we were offered some good money, but we could have sold it. We should have sold the patents and the rights to the
Mm-hmm.
people there. But they said, listen, if we did that, then what would there be for Jamaica in the future?
Okay.
So they made a
They made
sacrifice
a
and held on
sacrifice.
to the patents, which they still have. And it's for us to take that up and move further and faster with it. Now, what has happened since that time is that although they blocked us, the FDA and all these people, and passed this ridiculous law about victimizing and illegalizing ganja, because the 1961 convention, it hurts my head every time I think about it. Jamaica, quote unquote, hadn't even come to 1962 with independence yet. And yet still we signed this document because this criminal Nixon in the White House had a problem with his problems up there, with drug taking up there, and just embrace Jamaica and put us right into there. That's how the convention did and has made ganja illegal
Illegal.
across the globe, and particularly so in Jamaica since that time. So okay, big deal then. So all this time we have to grow and we have to hide and we have to cut the plant at a particular level so that helicopters from America don't come
Don't
in and
see
see
it.
it and burn it up.
Mm.
And then consequently, we continued like this. And then in 2015, we come to the situation where we decriminalize. The pressure came. Well, let us not forget, that there was a group of us based at UWI and elsewhere who had been constantly negotiating. Louis Maistan, Paul Burke, myself, um, Paul Chang, other people like that, for the legalization of ganja. And it went as far as to the place on Duke Street. It went to Parliament. and it was considered and then turned down, and then we continued to 2015 because the pressure had become so great. And really, what happened in 2015 is that the United States of America basically took a decision. Their economy was in trouble, and they visualized that if they legalize or they loosen up hemp and ganja, it's going to do wonders for their economy. And it really has. And it's because of that opening Jamaica felt brave enough, I think, to go ahead with the decriminalization in Jamaica.
So you've raised such a big point there, because even while we are here agitating and advocating, it had little or no impact until a superpower, the same one that started the major oppression in 1961, until
Correct.
they saw that it was beneficial to loosen the bond somewhat. I mean, it's telling me that the impact of external forces on how we treat with this plant is probably
Still
the
very present.
largest consideration in anything we're doing now, because even though we have decriminalized, and I emphasize the difference between legalizing and decriminalizing, because if you were going to legalize something as an active process, you would create structures to embrace it and to make it prosper and to give people access to it. When you decriminalize it, you have just removed the criminal stain, but you have done nothing to foster or create an environment for embracing it.
Well, that's so well put. And the reason for that was because we're so second rated. We're so afraid of the United States of America
Yeah.
that we thought we would just hop on the back of the bus, but not try to
But
get a
not
front
actually
seat.
try to drive it.
No, we wouldn't want to drive it. And so we're putting the decriminalization with still has all the, issues there that still need to be done. And as Maxine will tell you, after decriminalizing in 2015, we have spent 90%, 80% of our lives trying to go further with the decriminalization and the legalization issue.
So,
But without some economic
benefit. That's what I was going
yes,
to say.
yes.
Because that's the real issue here in terms of the economic benefits that can
Yeah.
accrue to us as Jamaican, to the Rastafarian community, in terms of the person who have pushed for so long from in the churches, in terms of moving
Right,
this.
because now you have dispensaries through this whatever they have going on, that the Rastafari is only used as an advertise. I don't know if they
It's part
took
of the
Peter
branding.
Tosh song too literal, because he said legalize it and we'll advertise it. But we don't own anything. We don't own one dispensary. We don't have any access. But you go into all of these dispensaries,
Yeah.
and they cannot exist without the Rastafari culture promoting. So it is actually very disheartening. And we, sit on a lot of committees with our.
So they're going to get a license yet as a
No,
community?
no community license, nothing. And other countries in the Caribbean are moving towards that by saying, okay, we give them sacramental, but give them the existing license, medicinal license structure vertically to engage. You understand? Instead, they're drowning us underneath this sacrament that has no
No economic
No
value.
economic value.
inclusion,
Yes.
and using our culture to sell for all of these dispensaries to
that are hardcore commercial activities.
Yes.
Yeah. Dickie, we want to wrap up with you before we take the break, but I would certainly like to hear your thoughts on what you would expect to see in the next round of regulatory intervention. There's banking and finance out there on a limb somewhere. If you manage to sell it, you have to keep the money under your bed or wherever. And there's also the fact, as Maxine is saying, that though the sacrament is clear, and the fact of the matter is nobody needed to give you permission to have your sacrament. I mean, so it's it's kind of just gratuitous and of no
Or
great
real
moment.
consequence, yeah.
Though that is there, still the plant has great value, and there is no apparent structure to ensure inclusion of not just the Rastas, but the
Everybody.
everyday man and woman who could, just like how you could go out and plant a crop of, you know,
Banana.
sweet
Sweet
peppers
potato.
or whatever other cash crop.
Yes.
Space is not there for persons to operate at that level and then fit into an ecosystem. What would you expect to see from the regulatory environment?
Well, I'm expecting to see and hoping to work towards it. It has to be a total reorganization of the current environment in Jamaica. Sadly, although, and I still hold it, the remarks that I passed at first are genuine about the power of this country, right? And its accomplishments. But sadly, Jamaica is a very stratified and racist society today still. This is the big problem. And we have a nucleus of people in Jamaica who are willing and use their power and influence
To control.
and funding of elections to control.
Hmm.
Exactly. You know, it's so funny. Every time I sit in front of the television set in Jamaica, all kind of things run through my head because there is hardly a company in this country that has a product to sell that does not align the sale and the marketing and the advertising of that product with the culture of the Rastafari and the poor people of Jamaica. Absolutely unbelievable. They won't live beside you.
Mhm.
They don't want you on their avenue because what you talk about Leonard Howell is not Leonard Howell is not a big thing in the sense that I remember when Bob Marley bought a house up in Jacks Hill
Mhm.
and he bought this nice little house right there. And within 2 weeks, every other house on the avenue
That's what I
had
say.
a for sale sign on the front lawn.
Okay.
That is within
And-
living memory.
Living memory. But these are the same people that later on will tell you, oh boy, I can't believe it. I went to Paris on this trip in and all them play in the hotel, the best hotel in Paris. It's reggae music.
Reggae music. And
You
they're-
see, we
and
really are.
you're proud to be
We're
a Jamaican.
schizophrenic, sir.
You're proud to be
Yes, but-
Jamaican when you're out there.
when you're out there. Yes. But at home here, and what Maxine said is right. I mean, what we're saying and what we see and feel is that the culture, the power, the enthusiasm, whatever, that has to be accomplished, has to be brought on board to accomplish getting rich, getting wealthy, being a Jamaican. All that is done. And the hard part about this thing, where do I want to go from this? The real problem is not even so much, yes, it is the ganja plant, yes, it is the culture. But more so than that, we are allowing millions of dollars of our copyright, of our culture, of our everything in this
Intellectual
country
property.
to be taken up by foreigners. You know, there's a place called Jaipur, which is the Jamaica Intellectual Property Office related to the World Intellectual Property
Property
Office.
Office.
They've been here for years. And I asked the question, what has been the benefits of this relationship? They come back to us to tell us about the Madrid Protocol now. Fine, that might be a step forward. But you see, it's one thing to say what we're saying, but is another thing when our
Own
culture,
people.
our money,
Yeah.
our rewards are being used abroad, and when we don't have no protection to get it from. Now and then one person who, as Maxine knows, who protected their music will get something. But
Yeah,
listen,
but the rest
again,
of us, no.
just go on YouTube. Just not YouTube. Just go on the television and go on the music shows, right? The different performances, the different television performances, and any cable channel you turn to, you can almost say, right, it, but it's not Jamaica that, not Jamaica with it. How come them tell me them in Washington or them in LA and all like that? They have copied everything from Jamaica. The music, the clothes, everything. I am unfortunate because I have been able to sit and watch the changes. Being one of the people who started Reggae Sunsplash. In those days, a man said to me, "What? No, sir, my hotel can't take no Rasta in here."
Oh wow.
No, that tell you the God's truth. That's what the man tell me.
Element.
That is how they operated then, because we had what is called a winter season.
Hmm.
And that meant that you open December the 15th to March the 15th. That's the winter season. And then after that, the hotels went back into class and we were closed off and everything.
Because
It is the Rastafari movement, the culture of the Rastafari, the music and the food and the ganja that turned and developed a tourism industry for Jamaica.
yeah, and all year, and
All year
all season.
All year
industry.
tourism industry.
Yes. Yeah.
And we haven't even done it properly because 70% of the income that comes into Jamaica,
Goes back up.
it goes back
Goes
out or
back out.
stays in on the
or,
beach.
or
you know.
doesn't enter at all. All right, so
Eh? Yeah.
I can't resist asking you this question before we take our leave of you. President Kagame is in Jamaica. And I have been saying for days now that I hope he doesn't teach our Prime Minister too many things. While I do appreciate that he is widely reputed to have made Rwanda into the most prosperous, knowledge-based and middle-class economy, there are some lessons I don't want him to teach our Prime Minister, and I have a feeling that our Prime Minister is understudying him. Can you identify one lesson perhaps that you would like him to leave with the Jamaican people?
Boy,
Or you could
that was-
identify one that you don't want him to teach.
Well, certainly I don't want to see any repetition of what happened in the bloodbath in Rwanda. Right?
1994. Okay.
Not at all. And I assume that should not happen because whatever reason, I don't know what propelled it to the point where it was, but Rwanda has become a sort of magic place now where economics and good management are at the top of the pile. What bothers me though is that the drift that Jamaica's politics is taking, even though the president of Rwanda, even before he came here, and that's not good, you know. I mean, we have a real problem, and that's why I saw that a bit when I listened to your presentation and how you put it and say, what would I want to leave or not to leave? Boy,
She has that.
I-
She has that
I'm a
ability,
bit-
sir.
yeah, I'm a bit worried about where Jamaica is posted at this point in time. And something is happening which we all have to watch very carefully. Let's put it this way.
Yes.
Jamaica doesn't really have a determined outlook for the people as other countries
Okay.
does. We get along because of our star power, let's put it that way. But underneath that, it's not good. If you're telling me that 1.2 million people in Jamaica are squatters, and almost when they say it in Parliament, they're making it sound as if it is the fault of the
Of the
1.2
people,
million people.
absolutely.
Yeah.
Yes.
Can you believe that?
As if
Oh,
it's because we
boy,
lack
and
ambition
squatting so bad.
and
Mhm.
yes.
And they're not doing
Yes.
anything to really put about
And when you
changes.
see state power being deployed, it is to tear down, burn up, smash down, and to act as if the people had ample notice. What are they still doing here? And I heard
Yeah.
one man say, "But they're living in a place that is inhospitable, and people shouldn't live there anyway."
Why do
While
they
you are looking at the NHT money being used to do everything else except build houses.
Well, that's true. The NHT money, which was, which the then government that started it were caught. Boy, they were abused over it. The NHT money, yes, it largely helps the private housing contractors
Okay.
to put up housing, which is not affordable by the
The common man.
By the man who is
by the
squatting.
common man,
By the man who
the
need
majority
house.
of the million.
Yeah.
Right. That was who it was destined for. So
I'm Dickie, I'm trying to ignore the producer who is telling me that that's for part
Yes, I know
two.
what you mean,
Part two. We
Because
have a part two. Yeah, we have a
we have
part two.
gone into another
yeah,
area of discussion, but I do say
but
I have to thank you very much. I'm gonna allow you to just finish what you're saying now, so we can thank you prettily
And
and
speak
take our
about the
break.
420 event.
Yes. All right. Maxine has given you some instructions.
you want to hear about the 420?
Yes, but
Yes.
finish your thought and then
Yeah,
speak
okay.
about 420.
What really happens right now? Um, Happily, I'm beginning to see the coming together that is necessary to change Jamaica. You have the different struggles out there necessary, right? But it's all one struggle. The final ending of slavery, reparations, then development. That gives us the opening for the development. And then we must put in the ownership. That's what we're talking about. No longer
Yes.
can we develop and not own what we develop. So big things have to be done about branding and organizing Jamaica and its productive elements. No point otherwise. So this just came to the fore. It came out when the visit of the royal family. Some of them came to Jamaica. It within a day or 2-3 days, everybody just got together and
Wow.
were out there protesting. And sadly, you go to Trenchtown and then you put the little children behind the barbed wire. It just goes to show. So it can be done. I think our number one target to accomplish all of this, you're going to have to develop a very serious relationship and a unity with the rest of the Caribbean countries, step one. Um, I'm very happy that Antigua and Barbuda, we had a hand in getting that ganja industry. They are way ahead of us. The Prime Minister has given the necessary property to the Rastafari community in Antigua to run the industry.
Wow.
And the difference is that apart from doing that, he also nominates this Rasta Brethren as the country's representative at the United Nations. So it's not no fancy business.
So
It's
it's both.
genuine
It's both.
respect
It's the people and the state working together, which is
working
not
together.
apparent in Jamaica. I do not
I know.
believe that the interest
That's
of the
right.
people and the Rastafarian is in
Yeah.
alignment with state behavior and state positions. So that's something we have to break here. But you know,
We have
as you
to
can
align
see,
ourselves with each other
yes,
because I'm not so happy and wonderful at thinking that the political system is going to come around. They're now talking about things that we talked about 30 years ago. No, because they can't control the society and it's going mad. I'm now hearing the Prime Minister talk about we must have a compulsory youth education program. When that was first announced in Jamaica, they called that communism. Now I listen to hear this argument about it has to be done because you cannot believe it. I saw a photograph of the things that the children take to school in Jamaica, the knives, the
Yes, sir.
cutlasses.
Mhm.
Unbelievable.
well, it seems like a change is coming in the political
come.
halls of Jamaica in any event, because if the people and the politics not aligned, something has to change, and we know
Yeah.
it's not the people because the people can't change.
And
So
one
it's gonna
last
be
thing
the
which I
politics.
think is important. The whole education system has to be scrapped, thrown away and begin from all over again. The number one educated country in the world is Finland, right? And they had to go through this problem, not necessarily identical to
Identical,
Jamaica,
but well, you know
but they
that.
scrapped the entire school system and started all over.
Well, you
And
know
today,
that every new life starts with death and rebirth. So we're gonna go through it, and I know
Alright.
we'll come out on the other side. Somebody in somebody's lifetime sitting at this table.
Yeah.
We have some
Alright.
young ones at the table, so
Yeah, I think
we're
my
very
last thing
hopeful. Yes.
My last thing you wanted to say something about 420.
Yeah, go ahead.
Well, 420 is the International Day of Celebration of the weed across the globe, right? In different formats, etc., etc. And this year, with all the difficulty, the COVID-19, the New World Order, all of these things that beset us, we have been able to turn out a reasonable um, event here in Jamaica. Jacana is a major player in all of this. This is a company in Jamaica that's doing well. And although they are not stupid and they speak to the weaknesses as well, Ganja Growers and Producers Association that Maxine and myself are
A part
tied
of.
to.
Yes.
We are supporters and sponsors of this. And do you know, we were just able to get all of what is happening next week together within a matter of the last month. Normally, you take a year to plan these things.
So
And
what day
that
is it? What day is it?
20th,
The
the
20th
20th
of
of
April.
April, International Ganja Day. And the thing that has made it a success, and it is already a success, the thing that has made it so is us working together.
Unity.
Unity. If we, that is what this country need more than ever now. The unity to work together. And
And it's
I
being held at
understand
the Island Village.
that's one location, yes. There's a Jacana has a store in Manor Park.
Yes, I know the store.
They have a store across the water in
Portmore.
Portmore. They have a store in New Kingston. But the sort of center piece for the thing is the new location that Blackwell had down in Island
At Island
Village.
Village. So
Yes,
that's where you'll be.
yes, that's where we all want to be, and some keynote speakers. And then there's an after party after that. So
Alright.
it has been really worked out very well.
Thank you very
Ma-
much, Dickie,
Yeah, thank you too.
referring to you by your campus name.
Richard
Yes.
Very
Crawford.
presumptuous of me, but I take liberties in your absence. If you were here now, I'd be bowing at your feet and saying, Mr. Crawford. But
Yeah,
since
man,
you're on the
that-
phone, I take liberties. Thank you very much
Yeah.
for sharing with us. I really appreciate the insight that you have given. I know we're going to speak again this time. You'll join us at the table because there's still so much to unpack on this issue and just plotting a way forward. I see a way forward, and I mean, there's a plan in my head, which I think I've shared it with Maxine. It requires, the unity that it requires is amongst those who are already oppressed. It is not even the state has done its part, and there's something we need to do. So I look forward to an opportunity to discuss that with you. We're going to take our station break now. We're long overdue for it, but we were having too much fun.
You're quite right, you're quite right. The political process can't go any further.
Yes,
The two political parties have expended their worth.
yes.
And it can't work anymore. You have to change it. The whole thing has to be changed. So you're right. It is the unity of those who are not in it, who
Absolutely.
don't support it, but we just have to come together and make changes. There's
All
there's
right.
no shortcut at all.
Have to get some new wineskins, sir. Have to get
All
some
right.
new wineskins. Thank you, sir.
Thank you. All right, let's take a break.
Okay. Take care.
Thank you. Bye.
Boy,
You-
he opened up a whole heap of things right there, sir. Even the education system. Yeah.
But this Kagame, man.
morning and welcome back. We have to shift gears now because we got into some very rebel mood talking to Mr. Crawford, who I recall so well from my campus days, and with Maxine closing the gap in our understanding on some of the things relating to cannabis. But even as we seek to come to terms with this plant and to kind of use it for the engine, as the engine, or to fire up the growth cells in the economy, we still have to
Creatives.
figure out how to navigate the digital world that is emerging. And we have to be, what they say, ride and whistle, because we
At the
got to
same
teach
time.
and prepare our people for the prosperity that lies ahead. And the new economy is increasingly online. So digital literacy is a series that the Morning Connection has committed and we are running it. And this morning, our very special guest is, I was going to say, Dr. Erica Heslop Martin. You wanted to say it too? Prophesy for her.
I was going to say, even as to transition from cannabis to the poet to digital literacy,
Yes.
psychotropic,
Yes.
in terms of inspiration, the poetry, and so on. So she said she was going to gift us with one of her revelations in terms of her poem.
From the first publication?
Yeah.
Yes, okay.
Go ahead.
Good morning, everyone. Good morning, everyone. I am delighted to be here with my mentor, Minette Lawrence. She has played an integral part in the development, my personal development and professional development. So now I'm going to share with you a poem that I wrote while in her.
Oh, really?
Wow.
In my classroom?
Yes, while in her classroom, as she puts it. A poetic revelation. Artistic juices flowing, a lover of words, lyrically sweet, inspiration unlimited, ready to express my thoughts, ready to express my experiences. Words to stimulate the imagination, many reactions anticipated, talent fully exercised and utilized, a great rhythm echoing in my soul, visions unconcealed, a revelation of words, a renaissance of creativity, different cultures exposed, an adventure, great blessings in store, thanksgiving to my creator, respect due to all human beings, acknowledgements to my special people, a praying soul, love reigns supreme, life is a journey, an adrenaline rush, emptiness despised, contentment enticed, a work that brings true satisfaction, a road free of traffic, appreciation at the top, negligence at the bottom. Musically mystified, naturally sensitized, my mind has grown wings, the flight of an eagle, the feet as light as feather, the dance of a swan. My fingers are anxious, so anxious, ready to write words colorfully decorated. My lips are energized, ready to articulate a realization, a fulfillment, a poetic revelation.
Yes, sir. Well said. Are you cause that happen?
Listen, I wish I could say, yes, that's me. I
But the lady say
inspired
you
her.
inspired her. Yes, you understand.
Yes?
Yes,
Okay. Thank you.
you're
And,
welcome.
and as you said, lyrical genius. That's what you are.
And do you know, she has chosen this moment to tell me.
Wow, it happens. And
Yeah,
don't ball
I
upon the
didn't-
set to this man. You know your item are full up already.
the producer has
get your
outlawed
blood
crying.
on the set. Yes, so
We've been banned, just so you know. There's to be no crying
Right.
on the
Okay.
Morning Connection. But thank you very much. Of course, you've heard Erica read her own poem, so you know that lyrically sweet is an understatement of her own gifts. And this morning, she's here wearing Oh boy, so many other hats. This morning she's not here as poet, though I am certainly gratified by what you have shared. You are here in your capacity as a participant in this business of educating our people to use the virtual world. Yes. So, what have you been up to in the last? I'm just gonna say the last 12 months.
Okay, so the last 12 months, it has been a journey. I have grown and developed professionally throughout that period. And with the pandemic, I have had to go online. And I had to, when they said, baptism by fire, or you had to just learn to swim. So, yes, I knew about digital literacy and teaching in the online space, but I had to do more than what I was taught before. So I've been teaching. I teach children as well in the church
So
setting.
you're teaching young adults in the heart environment.
Yes, I'm teaching adults. So I teach persons between the ages of 17 to 80 at Heart NSDA Trust. But where the children, meaning between the ages of 7 to 9,
Okay.
I teach them in the church, right? So I've had to be online Zoom with them, right? And it was challenging at first, but I overcame the challenges with practice and with the children learning so quickly.
Tell me about it.
They trust me, they know a lot about the online space. They'll probably even teach the adults
Teaching me all
I
the
think
time.
we're two.
a thing or two.
Daddy, this how you do it. All right, Trent. All right. Hello, hello. And they run and that's easy to do, and they do it all the time. So I know what you're talking about.
Yes. So the children, it was easier for the children, the 7 to 9 age group, right? Because they learn fast. But, with the adults, no. Up to in the 50s or 60s, they took a longer while a longer time to adjust. But for those in the 17 to maybe 40s, they were up to scratch with the online platforms.
Right.
So, based on the field of study or the area of
Study that they were
engaged in, business administration, communication skills, customer service, these are some of the areas that I lecture in at the Heart NSDA Trust. And it has been wonderful for me because I've learned a lot. So even though I'm teaching, even though I'm imparting education, I have learned a lot. And I find that it comes with flexibility. So the
Okay.
trainees, they appreciate the space more because they can be at home in the comfort,
Of
in
their
the,
home.
in the comfort of their home, and they don't have to be spending money to go
For
to the campus,
transportation and lunch
transportation
and
and
so on.
lunch and all of that. So they appreciate the online space.
Even textbooks. I mean, are you using more digital material so
So
persons
I'm
are
using
not?
more digital material because it is readily available, right? And
These videos that I've seen on YouTube,
yes,
there's clearly a strategy, and maybe you could say a little bit about what these videos are, because the Heart Trust is using a new method of delivering some of their training information.
right. So the instructional videos that I have been a part of, they are in aid of educating the trainees. So because we are in the online space and we're using these electronic media, we have developed instructional videos so that they can get information that is relevant to the courses that they are enrolled in. And so it is very important to have accurate information
Right.
and to be clear in how the information is delivered.
Presented, yeah.
So it has been a very good journey for me, an experience for me, because it is something that I'm passionate about. I'm passionate about education. I'm passionate about, literacy,
Okay.
and also the creative space, because you have to use creativity to bring forth this information to our users
And to keep them motivated, no
and to
doubt.
keep them motivated.
And attentive. How long have you been working with Heart NTA?
Okay, so I've been working with the trust for 4 years now, over 4 years. 2 years part-time and 2 years full-time.
Okay.
Would you say that you've seen any changes in their strategy for digital inclusion?
Oh, definitely. They are evolving.
So when
And-
you started, give me an example of something you saw when you started, which is now in a more mature digital form.
Okay, so when I started, it was more paper-based, and now we are using more online material, and we're using Zoom, WebEx, Microsoft Teams. So it's a number of online platforms, and we use different materials that will enable persons in the online space to be able to get the material and to get the material readily.
Something that comes readily to mind. You're on this online platform with your students. How do you get them to decipher between what is good material and what is bad material? Because everybody would believe that when you go on the net, everything on the net is okay. Do you teach that to your adult learners? How do you help them in that fashion?
Okay, so I would ensure that they know the difference between credible information and
Incredible.
Not credible.
not incredible.
Not
Right. So I know that it's credible information and non-credible information, not incredible,
it's incredible
Which is-
to be true.
which is totally different.
I know.
So the English language.
Three different types
Oh
of
my.
information.
The English language is amazing.
Yes, that is the revelation.
And so, even though I lecture in business administration and customer service, I teach communication skills as well.
Right.
And this is something that I'm passionate about. I'm a writer, a poet, author, and editor. So it is something that comes naturally to me. And so when you're teaching about the credibility of the information, you will have to let them know that it has to come from materials that are authorized by the literacy governing bodies, the dictionaries, encyclopedias. You have ProQuest. It's not everything that is on Google, like Wikipedia and so on, because persons are able to just put up information, and this information may not be credible. So you have to ensure that you are using legitimate sources.
Okay, that's an interesting thing.
Yeah, so
Go ahead.
we
Misinformation,
often think
disinformation.
we often think that the ascension of the digital world means that the natural world and the physical environment has lost its validity or its authenticity. But all that you have said just now, you're really saying test it against real world information that is credible and sound, and the principles that you use, the scientific principles that you use to demonstrate either efficacy or authenticity remain the same.
Definitely.
So if and I used the word incredible a while ago because if it's incredible, chances are it's not true. when you see a piece of information that just challenges your credulity, um, chances are that's exactly what it is. It is not true. For example, during the days of the pandemic, and I guess the pandemic has not been, no one has announced that the pandemic is over. So we're still, I guess, living under that edict. I saw videos of Bill Gates saying some things that just made no sense, like rubbing his hands in glee over how they're going to decimate the world population. People were just sending you, we're getting all these things. And to me, it's as if no one stopped to say, if I were Bill Gates with all the money and the ability to secure my communication, would I really be on video saying, like one of those cartoon characters, I'm going to conquer the world and destroy the world's population? Yet, very sensible persons were sending them to me. It seems to me that the persons who looked at these videos and didn't stop to say, could this really be true? I think, well, they lacked some discernment, and it's an area that certainly those who are teaching need to remind persons that you still have to test what you see against real world sensibilities, evidence, and information.
Definitely. You can't just take anything that you see out there to be true, because you have a lot of tools that you can use to edit information.
That's true.
You have videos that can be, spliced,
deepfake.
put together, right?
Yes.
Put together, and it's not really the person. Then you have different persons doing voiceovers for somebody else, and then you're thinking that that's the person. So you have to test it. You have to know what is real and what is not real.
So I have one tip. I'm going to ask you to give a tip, and perhaps Pastor Percival, think of your tip. I'll go first because I already have my tip. It says speaker's
Not fair.
advantage. I know, but I'm giving you time to think of it. One tip, I say, if the only place you see it is on the internet, you need to double check. And I give you an example while you think of your own. There was a video making the rounds about how many missionaries, like it would say 100 missionaries. It was about a number of missionaries who were allegedly being held in somewhere in the Middle East, and they were to be executed. And an appeal was sent out for prayer, like it would say 99 missionaries. Do you remember? I don't know who.
Yeah, man, I remember.
You remember it, right?
But it was a rehash of
Something that had
a
made the
long,
rounds
long,
like
long
10
time.
years ago, but they change it. Sometimes it's journalists, sometimes it's missionaries. Now, my tip is, if the only place you see it is in a video making the rounds like that, then you have cause to doubt the truthfulness of it. It is not possible that missionaries from all around the world could be held hostage and the first report of it is on the internet. It's just not possible. Even the countries from which they come, the families who are distraught about that situation, you would see it in the mainline news media somehow, somewhere.
That's
So
right.
that's my tip. If the only place you see it is in a video that your friend sent you that has gone viral, chances are is foolishness. What tip could you give to help persons who have to, contend with information on the internet?
Okay, so the tip that you just gave is an excellent
I know
tip.
I chose the best one.
Like
That's-
you go to class and ask a question and have the answer already.
Right.
That's what she just did to us.
But
Yes.
think of some other ones.
So
think of
fact
some other ones.
checking. So you have to
Fact-checking.
fact. You have to
Yes.
check your facts. So just like what Minette said, if it's just that one video that is making its round on social media and you're not seeing it in the news, then chances are it's fake news. So you have to ensure that you check the legitimacy of the information that is being put out there, whether it's in written format, video format, or voiceovers. You need to ensure that you fact check.
And I love what you're saying, because a lot of times it's one grain of truth with 99% lies.
Yes.
But what you see is the one grain of truth gives you the confidence that the rest of it is true. So it's checking all the facts,
Right.
not just going off, whatever the headline is. What about you, Pastor Percival? Any tips we can give to?
For me personally, with information, you see a headline, most important to read the rest of the article. So we see it all the time. You see a big headline there, and then you go, okay. They say, let me read the article some further. And the headline doesn't
opposite.
match up with what is in the article. It's saying, oh, they were just trying to sell a paper.
So what you've raised, and I'm going to ask your thoughts on this, Erica. Yes, the producer is reminding us that we need to tell people where they go to check facts. Where do you?
And who controls the
Yes.
fact checkers? Because some of the time they have an agenda too.
Pastor gone deep.
No,
That
but it's
is
true. That is so true.
Yes, because the enemy set up his own fact-checking operation
Operations.
and,
Yeah.
and intercept your query and mislead you even further. But what are some of the common places, though, online that one would go to verify information?
All right. So in Jamaica, you could go to Jamaica Information Service, JIS, and the Gleaner. The Gleaner, you can get
The archive.
yes,
a lot
the
of
archive
material.
as well. And sometimes you can do interviews. You can do surveys.
Find the source.
Find the source.
If the person is alive, go and find the
exactly.
source.
Go to that person. Find some way to reach out to that person. If the information being spread is about that person, see if you can make contact with that person to ensure that the information is authentic, it's accurate, because you don't want to be spreading
You don't want to.
information that is
yes.
not true.
The
Fake
Broadcasting
news.
Commission has a very nice
It- it-
advert
it-
that
fake
addresses that
news.
issue. But, thank you to the producer for bringing us back to that point, because many students
Have research projects.
and you continue all of your research online,
Mm-hmm.
forgetting that even some of those sources of information might be compromised or
Yes.
driven by different, including Siri. I hear. Don't ask Siri. Siri is a robot. So I was gonna just make an inquiry about what Pastor said about the headline. It is kind of notorious in the industry that millennials and younger have very short attention span.
Yes.
And so they will just focus on the headline.
Yes.
So I guess another tip would address just how much time you spend. And perhaps it's why so many memes and vines and the short, everything is curated to be in bite sizes.
Right.
Pretty much, I would say almost shutting down the brain, because
Yes.
just how much are you going to experience of the world in what is the time span?
30
Is it
seconds.
In 30 seconds.
Yes.
So we really need to sort of
Ads are done
re-educate.
for 30 seconds.
Yeah.
Yes.
So we need to re-educate along the lines of extending the time span so you
Right.
can really.
And being intentional about it in
Yeah.
terms of you can't use 30 seconds to determine if something is true or not, because the truth is it might go off, because that is how.
That's
as
why
you-
the headline
that-
point
that
you made is so powerful.
Yeah.
They will put all this the stuff in the
on
headline
Twitter
to
and
grab your attention, and
Instagram.
if that is not true, you would have consumed garbage.
So it's so important, to
It's extremely
to be
important.
intentional in terms of how you verify information, because you could be led astray. As we talk about disinformation, misinformation, what is your take on that? Where was the first instance of disinformation?
She's quite young, Pastor Percival. You can't ask her about the first instance. You want to go back to the Garden of Eden?
Yes, man, I'm going back to Garden of Eden.
She
Did
too
God
young
really
for that.
say? That was disinformation.
Did God really say,
When he spoke to Eve, did God really say?
This is the serpent.
you shall
and-
not
Yeah.
truly die?
Yeah.
So, yes. So you're taking us back to the Garden
Yes,
of
he
Eden,
is.
where the serpent deceived
Right.
Eve.
Disinformation.
That was disinformation, definitely.
Wow. So it's not a new game then?
No, so it's like this. It's a cycle.
Okay.
So we need to ensure that we are not caught up or trapped in that cycle.
Or think that it is the product of modern engineering.
Sure.
Right.
Yes. To
Right.
understand that it's quite old,
Yes,
Part
it
of
is.
lies.
and which also means that the solutions are quite old. They're there to be
True.
uncovered. And I'm grateful that you are a part of it, with what you're doing, teaching, and also staying in the arts. How have you found this connection between the cultural expression and the professional? How have you found them to work to your advantage?
Okay, so in the classroom, I'm able to be creative. And so my trainees will say, Miss, you know, you're very,
You're dramatic.
yes, Miss, you're very dramatic. They always say, Miss, you're so dramatic. You know how to keep our attention. And I said, well, you know, I am a lover of the arts.
I thought you said I have twins. Which she does, by the way. How are they?
yes, they are awesome. They're doing well. So, yes, I have twins. And so I have to know how to keep them engaged.
And focus.
Right?
Two of them at the
Keep
same
them focused
age. No,
at
you
the same
can't.
time. Right.
Yes. You're well prepared.
Yes, I am. And so I use different creative ways to teach, to educate. And I find that when you use creativity, it has a way of being cemented in the brain more than when you are very stiff and very, what should I say?
Robotic.
jacket.
Let's go with robotic.
Right. You cannot be robotic and boring in the classroom. This is the age of information. Information is at the fingertips of everyone to reach, right? So you have to be creative, you have to be innovative, you have to come with ideas that will stimulate the mind and that will help persons to want to be educated and want to be in the classroom. So the classroom shouldn't be a place where
A place of punishment.
No, it should not be a place of punishment.
That's how the children think
It
it is
sh-
nowadays, you know.
Well, I mean, because you teach from 0 to 80 in the classroom, I want to know some of the strategies that you would recommend for retraining the older folks who are new to the technology and might be a little suspicious of it. Have you had any experience in that area?
Right. So some persons, the older ones, would be a little suspicious or a little hesitant in embracing the technology because they're not used to it. So persons fear what they're not used to or what they do not understand.
Okay.
Right?
That's so interesting, you know. As you talk about older persons and the computer, we've done it at PDI Girls Town.
Oh,
So we
okay.
introduce the community and the older people come and say, I want to learn to use a computer. So it's there and they're looking at it and we say, turn it on. Afraid they're going to bite me, sir. And I'm not kidding you.
They actually say,
Yes. Say, no, you can turn it on. You have to teach them how to turn on the
Right.
computer, the different things, and then they become used to it. And when they get used to it, they're
So are
gone.
you aware of any introductory courses like that? Which is that anywhere in the heart universe, metaverse, introductory courses to technology that citizens could just say, you know what, I'll download these. No, they wouldn't say download.
No, they can't download it.
I'll go by this center and get a few hours.
learn.
Anything like that? I'm planting an idea.
Oh, yes. Heart and Estate Trust caters to everyone. And so there are programs that will help seniors or the older ones to navigate this platform or to help them to
All right,
understand.
I'm about to write.
Yes.
I know I have at least 2 or 3 listeners who are interested in getting that exposure. So how can we find those programs?
Right, so you can just go online and you can go to you can go to the head office.
All right, give me a number to call. I think most people will manage that.
You can call 1-877-699 heart. So that's HEART.
Okay. All right, so I'm putting out the request. We will make the call and get some information that we can share on what these courses are, where they're available,
Yes.
and how persons can get to them, because I think it is sorely needed. Almost everything now, even to do your tax returns,
Everything.
check your bank accounts.
Yes.
I mean, there are some basic things that, and I would love to know if you would perhaps do a few instructional videos on those basic things.
I've actually done some already, so you can go on to the Heart NSD Trust YouTube channel and you will see some videos that will help you in that area.
In the area of technology, introduction
Definitely.
to technology.
Yes,
Wow,
you
I
have.
didn't see those.
Yes.
So
So
okay.
you can find those as well. And more videos will be placed on the channel, so you will have more content in digital literacy.
Oh, excellent. I think that's. I don't think we can do better than that, unless you want to do a Louise Bennett poem. I told Erica about International Women's Day when we all read a verse from Louise Bennett's.
That was
poem.
interesting.
Oh,
You need
Wow.
to get that
Yes.
video.
Yeah, Pastor didn't do so well.
Yes.
So perhaps now that he had that exercise there, he could do a do-over with you.
All right,
I don't
so-
know. I didn't prepare him, but
well, the poem that I remember doing from primary school,
all right, let me bring it up.
but my poem is Dirty Tough. That's the
and-
poem.
That's the same
I,
one
Oh,
that we
and the
did.
dirty tough.
it's Dirty Tough. That's the one that you did?
Liquor twang. We did liquor twang. You just come from Pioneer liquor twang. You
All
know that
right,
one
I'm
there.
bringing it up.
Well,
Pastor, are you game? Maxine, how you feeling over there? Ready for a
Bit of-
verse in a
of-
patois, a bit of Louise Bennett?
Maxine said,
All right. We want to end this segment with a Louise Bennett poem because it's a challenge. Erica is an expert. I can do it at home. Pastor is is learning, and I want to see if Pastor has got any better.
I'll go first.
All right. Okay. Maxine, you're going to be in it now. We're going to pass you the microphone and a verse of the poem. We have it
Yes.
up. All right. Erica, you will kick us off. All right. So before Erica leaves us, because she is a renowned and published poet, she is going to just guide us in a better reading in the dialect. It's not digital literacy, it's actual literacy. But that is how we're wrapping up the segment. So we pass the mic. Okay, Maxine, you want to be second? All right. Since it's this way.
Dirty Tough by Louise Bennett. Sun a shine, but things no bright. Do a pot a boil, bickle no enough. River flood, but water scarce, yeah. Rain a fall, but dirty tough. Things are bad that nowadays when you ask somebody how them do. Them afraid they take it tell them back so them not answer you. No care how much we they work for. Hard times still in our shot. We they fight hard time they beat we. They might just wage wages, but £1 gone pound we pay and we no feel no merriment. For £10 gone pound we food and £10 pound we rent. Saltfish gone up, mackerel gone up, pork and beef gone up same way. And when rice and butter ready, them just go on holiday. Cloth, boot, pin and nigger gone up. Ice, bread, taxes, water rate, personnel and gasoline, and the dollar devaluate. The price of bread gone up so high that we have to agree for cut we eye. Pan bread and all ton dumpling, refugee. And all them manga somebody they where they gone like fat is sin. All them they were fast with fat people, I left them to dumpling. Sun a shine and pot a boil. Things no bright, bickle no enough. Rain a fall, river the flood, but water scarce and dirty tough. Ay ay ay.
Well, we would have needed the police to take the mic from her. She did not even pause. Maxine, she left nothing for us.
She done it as they would have said.
Boy,
No finish.
I
She
tell
done
you,
it.
Pastor Percival, I did want a little verse for you, though, but Erica has
Don't
left
it.
nothing. Anyway, let's see what you can do with even one verse. Now you see how it is to be done.
Sun a shine and pot a boil. But things not bright. Bickle no enough. Rain a fall. River they flood. But water scarce and the dirty tough.
Ay ay ay.
Hey.
Maxine, I'm not leaving you out of it. I concede with Maxine. We're evenly matched now. We've had 2 readers and 2 concessions. All seems fair. Oh, Erica, you must join us again. Thank you so much.
You're most welcome.
All right.
Yes,
It's
man.
perfect timing because it's time for the 9:30 break. Please stay with us when we come back. This is the Morning Connection. Welcome back to the Morning Connection. We truly did enjoy that bit of cultural exposition, especially from Pastor Percival. If I had to vote, Percy, I'd vote for you.
No, man.
Erica is a professional.
It was a
You
good
can't-
second. Good second.
Erica is a professional in amateur hour, so she can get the votes. You got my votes.
Oh, wow. Did I get your vote, Maxine?
Yeah, definitely.
Of course,
All
you,
right.
after
Because
you
the
read me
total conceded.
conceded. It wasn't Erica that cleared the field. After you read, I said, "Hold on, no, we can't go into that." But my thanks to both Erica and Dickie Crawford, who added to the learning this morning. So we're going to close off with Maxine. 420 is coming up, or 24, as Jamaicans would say, the 20th of the 4th.
That's interesting.
What are your plans? Where are we hanging?
Well,
We're taking pasta with us, you know, so make sure.
we're still protesting. You
Ah.
know, sorry. We're still protesting non-inclusion. So even though there's decriminalization and activity happening, certainly as a Rastafari community, we're not included. So we still have to be advocating for, and 420 over the period, over the years, it started as a protest.
Okay.
Yeah,
Okay.
yes, it's not
Yes.
a celebration.
It's not a celebration.
now in the context of what is happening, but it is still a protest. And in fact, our first 420 event here was a march sponsored by the late Honorable Bunny Wheeler, who really has sponsored all the ganja marches, the first ganja march in 1996. And we continued in 2015 a march between Spanish Town and Morant Bay, trying to link the ganja inclusion to Paul
To Paul
Bogle's
Bogle.
request to the Queen at
And
the
it-
time, or
from
her
Stony Brook to
servants,
Spanish Town.
right, for the inclusion of the Jamaican small farm again at the time to be included in trade. And she said that they must be content to work for the plantation owners and don't start up any business.
That's
So
their place in the
that's
economy.
their place in the economy. So it was actually making the link that we're struggling with now, to be included in the economy, not merely as labor, but as owners and entrepreneurs.
So that's where the real struggle is.
That's
actually.
where the real
Because
struggle
as
is.
I cannot recall, I cannot forget what you said in terms of having struggled and you reach to the top, you do have no economic power. So that's really what it is about.
Yes, it is. Because even when they were talking about Rastafari inclusion economically and sacrament, they don't discuss the brand, the
Wow.
value of the intellectual property, which is quite separate from the right of sacrament. And if the inclusion of the brand was incorporated, then the Rastafari Trust or the economy would already start before you
Reaping.
even
Reaping, yeah.
what do you call it, plant a seed.
Yeah.
Because you already have equity
in the
in the
system
in the
from
the
long
industry
time.
from long time.
Yeah.
You know,
So
all
that-
the major lifestyle companies, Nike, Puma, you know, etc., have been selling Rastafari clothing with the ganja emblazoned.
Yeah.
You understand what I'm saying?
Right,
So
right.
even though the ganja was illegal, the selling of the ganja on the shirt was not. You
I
know
think
what I
that
mean?
was deliberate. That they didn't know it was a deliberate.
I think it
attempt
started
to
no,
continue
it
to
started
perpetuate.
With no, it actually started with the. I think I could trace it to the transition of Bob Marley and his ascendancy. You know, through merchandising instead of the actual person. That is when that huge
Market
use
boom.
of the image and the culture
But I have
started
to-
in trade.
I have to ask you this, and you saw me going deep in thought. There's much land within the hands of one or two or three or many Rastafarian. There is land,
Yes.
and there's wealth in the hands of members of the Rastafarian community. The current licensing structure that requires you to apply for, prepare, secure, and be ready to take processing and cultivating and other licenses. There is the possibility that a well-intentioned, contributing member of the community could say, "Here's 100 acres of land, maybe cut up in 5-acre blocks throughout the country. These are the licenses. Let's put together a co-op and use the brand for our own economic gain."
Well, in
That
the-
is not happening. What do you
Right,
think
what-
accounts for that?
I think at the beginning, actually, the council, along with the late Honorable Bunny Wheeler, we were the first to register a company, Rasta Ganja Global Limited,
Yes.
with the intent to understand that we had to have a company to
take the
licenses, etc. We assumed that the Rastafari were going to get licenses because there was all of this. setting
Meaning
up of
without having to pay for it, or
no,
without
even to set up a just like how the CLA was set up, it didn't
Yes.
just bond so
Mhm.
when they got it. You
Yeah,
know,
yeah,
there was a
good.
period.
You're giving
of,
us a little patois. Not to
Right.
worry, it will come.
the
So you
there
thought
was research to
yes.
develop this CLA, So what didn't happen for the Rastafari? There was no research done to set up the Rastafari
Company.
administration of its rights.
Oh,
Like
okay.
how was it going to be developed economically, right?
Okay.
Because then it wouldn't just be about sacrament; it would be sacrament and brand
Yes.
and your intellectual property. In fact, in the CLA list, the Rastafari brand is identified as needing
Special treatment.
special treatment,
And acknowledgement.
etc.
But I'm focusing your mind. What impediment do you see to
That-
Rasta doing this?
Right. So
on their
again, for example, the biggest Rastafari, as you would have spoken of in terms of monetary and brand, was the Mali.
Mm-hmm.
And so the Mali natural brand was launched, but it was launched in California.
And for themselves.
And for themselves, using all of the attributes of the Rastafari culture and the Jamaica space. It was in California, but it was not the hills of California. It was the hills of the Blue Mountain.
So let me ask you, do you think that in days to come, the Rastafarian community anchored in Jamaica will take steps to address those inequities in their own situation?
Well, it
Do you
is
see that?
being,
You
yeah.
don't
Well,
know.
I mean, at the Supreme Court level,
No, it doesn't have to be. But yes, if necessary. I guess what I'm saying, I'm in the days that I've spent learning more about what is happening, there is a trust that that has already been established. There is some structure for governance. Last week, I was edified by the president's contribution. I see a system emerging under which the community can begin to self-regulate and follow up on these threads that it can control, because I don't think we're going to see the government doing more
I
than
think
it has already
to
done.
answer your point, though, I
Yes.
think the market confusion was the medicinal license and no recreational rights, right? So the Rastafari community would be more located in the recreational space in terms of what.
For their own use, or as a matter of trade with the rest of the population that
As a
want
matter
to
of the
smoke
actual
weed.
use. There's existing use that the
Yes.
Rastafari and the Jamaicans are
Right.
involved in and have been involved in all throughout. There's an economy surrounding not just export illegal, but there's a
Local consumption.
Local consumption
By all, not
by
just
all,
Rasta.
right?
All right,
But
I
the
got that.
Rastafari would have a what you call it
An
market-
advantage.
An advantage, and because of the right, it was felt that the Rastafari would be the
Dominant
point
factor.
of they got the first right.
First, yes.
So they would be the first dispensaries. So all these dispensaries that are around now on the quote unquote the medicinal license are actually recreational dispensaries. You understand
It's
what
a
I'm saying?
facade.
It's a facade. So we didn't study that this is a facade.
Oh,
You understand what I'm
well,
saying?
I've seen
Yeah.
what is happening.
That
now.
is the-
Yeah, yes. So they never understood.
Is it misinformation
It
or
was-
disinformation?
It's
It sounds
disinformation.
like a manipulation.
It was a manipulation
Yeah.
of the understanding that Jamaica is known globally. Everybody thought that ganja was already free here.
Yes,
It
that's
was-
true enough.
When we legalized or decriminalized,
Decriminalized.
Before we-
people were scratching their head.
What
do
really
you mean? What
happened?
do you mean? Wasn't ganja free there? Because as a tourism, as Dickie was saying,
Yes.
Rastafari and ganja and music was
Synonymous.
Right.
synonymous.
Yeah.
You
Yeah.
know? So it was that market confusion and the fact that, I know for the Honorable Bunny Wheeler, he did not put forward his personal brand because he wanted the Rastafari community to have their commercial platform
Yes.
and to use his brand to push for the Rastafari.
That's actually a
right.
tremendous sacrifice when you see how other notable reggae artists have
Have
profited
profited.
on the personal
Exactly.
side.
And
So we're
it-
not going to let that sacrifice go to waste.
No, no.
What are you doing on the 20th of the 4th?
Well, on the 20th, we've been invited to the
Island Village?
event
At
in
Island.
in Island Village, which I won't reveal our backstory to that, but
There's always a backstory.
but we will be we're invited as speakers to speak on the obviously the Rastafari situation in a place like Island Village. you'll go there and say all these stores selling Rastafari paraphernalia,
yes, yes.
colors, etc.
The brand
The
is
brand is
leveraged to the maximum there.
there,
And
now
Maxine will
you-
be there.
right? And there are 2 or 3 dispensaries
Yes,
there as well. I think Jacana being one.
being one.
So it will be a perfect
Staging.
staging for the question of why are we advertising and owning nothing?
Yeah.
Wow.
Yes. Yeah.
All right,
No,
so
it's
it
a
goes-
legitimate
So it
inquiry.
goes back to the fundamental question. We need economic power.
We need a Rasta public,
Okay.
not a republic.
Rasta
We
public.
need a Rasta
Yeah,
public.
that phrase was coined by Sizzler
A
in
Rasta
relation.
public.
Yeah,
In
Rasta
terms of-
public in terms of this question of the referendum as to what is this new Jamaica
What is the new Jamaica to look like?
to look like, and he's doing an album, Africa 54, celebrating the 54 states of Africa. And I said, on the program, Minette had brought up the Commonwealth 54.
Yes.
You
yes.
understand?
I
And I was like, wow.
Yes, I got confused too when I saw the 54. I'm like, but it's the same Commonwealth 54. I said, what?
But it
Same
it-
number.
same number, and I make the question. I said, what does the Commonwealth feel about reparations?
But that's
You know
why
what I
the
mean?
little-
And even this guy, this president, I'm not a guy, this
Kagame.
president Kagame, what is his position on reparations?
Okay.
You understand? Within the
Yes,
Commonwealth,
I would
is
have
that
imagined. I would have imagined that the Commonwealth would have passed a resolution and be moving forcefully and holding
And I
accountable.
hear that the
Scotland.
Secretary General
Yeah.
that
That
they
should be
want to
pushed.
remove is being removed because
She's been
of
pushing
She's
her
on that
pushing.
path.
I
Yes,
got an article
yes.
from the Telegraph who spoke to that.
Yes,
that
that
we
is-
need to talk
reparations.
about it.
We
yeah.
do need to talk about it more frontally. But we are at that point in the morning when we get to say thank you again. All those who have been participating online, a lot of commentary and some hand clapping. Thank you guys, as usual, for giving us the encouragement. And those who are listening to us on radio, our guests today have been Maxine Stowe, giving us all the learning and the wisdom on matters pertaining to Rasta. Dickie Crawford weighing in online. Thank you
Wow.
again, Mr. Crawford. And the beautiful poetess, Erica, who gave us some cultural inspiration there with Miss Louise Bennett's reading of Dirty Tough. A close second by Pastor Percival, who with a little training, he'll be right up there
Just
with
go on
her.
left in the woman. That's it.
And thank you to the crew back in the studio. Raphael, thank you so much for guiding us through the morning. And the producer, Mr. Lawrence, my own warrior man, standing firm at the controls. And Eden, the presence of God with us. Eden, thank you so much for the support. Maxine, we ride again.
Yeah, well, I want to ask,
yeah.
I want to ask a request.
Yeah.
Yes,
The
ma'am.
producer for the event, 420, I'm asking that Monday, if he could make
Oh,
a...
Speak with us.
yeah,
or
Mr.
be here.
Lackdean.
Absolutely.
Yes,
if
sure.
you
you
can
can
call,
Call
in
in
and
and
Yes.
talk. Yeah, man.
Right,
Yes,
about
yeah.
the event again on Monday.
All right. Thank you
All
very
right.
much.
Monday we're
That
not here.
request is
Monday's
easily.
holiday.
Oh,
Monday's
Monday's
holiday.
holiday.
Oh,
on
Tuesday.
Monday, may I just say that on Monday the producer is going to rebroadcast the interview with the president, Sizzler Kalonji himself.
okay, so-
you will be on air, but please don't try to call. But
So then it's
we
a
had request. So
Tuesday.
it would be on
Tuesday,
Tuesday.
Tuesday,
request.
On
I'll let them
Tuesday.
know.
We're happy to accommodate that. All right. So long. This is the start of the Morning Connections weekend. Thursday is the new Friday
Long
in this
weekend.
house. Stay well and enjoy your Easter holidays, everyone. Thank you.